What widely accepted life hack is actually terrible advice. I've seen it said by a few younger people that one should turn their hazard lights on when driving on the highway because it makes them more visible. Don't do this. On top of no longer being able to use the turning signals, some cars will not turn on brake lights when the hazards are on. Which, on the highway, it's extremely dangerous. Plus, nobody knows why the hazards are on, adding more chaos to highway driving. Just follow basic highway etiquette. You don't need to invent new rules of the road that only you are aware of. Well, I only turn my hazards on if I'm in general distress or driving through an incredibly torrential downpour of rain. Story 2. Start Botox and filler young. It's preventive. It actually ages you faster. You start using different muscles in the face to smile, etc., and you will start getting wrinkles under your eyes or nose, which you wouldn't have gotten until much later. Filler microscopically stretches the skin. It also doesn't fully dissolve like they said it would, so it actually will migrate to different pockets in the face, leaving your face looking puffy and lumpy. Too many actives and lasers will thin the skin, also making you appear much older. Story 3. Pretty much anything telling you that frolicking in nature is a replacement for medication, your diabetes, your cancer, your bipolar disorder aren't going to stop being a thing because some blonde white woman talking about raw vegan diets and chakras tells you it will. It is important to get out once in a while, certainly do that, but do it while taking your meds. However, it's dangerous advice from dangerous grifters and idiots to tell you to get off your meds. Story 4. They charge more for weddings, tell the venue it's for a family reunion, not a wedding. Guys, do not do this. First of all, it's fraud. Don't start your married life with fraud. Second, this will not go the way you think it will. These are event professionals. Part of their job is having a keen sense of people. They know how people act before weddings versus before a reunion or a birthday. They understand this stuff way more than you do. They're not stupid. You are trying to fool them. Some venues will straight up cancel your wedding the day of without notice if they discover you lied to them and breached the contract. Also, stop assuming a wedding is just price gouging. You don't hire photographers very often and ask them to give you customized photo albums, do you? A tiered cake that serves 100 people and has to be secured in a van and driven to a catering hall is going to cost more than other cakes. This is common sense. A wedding is more work for the venue, more liability on the venue, and you think that calling it a birthday party or a family reunion is somehow going to circumvent that for the same level of service? It won't. Story 5. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Eat breakfast to kickstart your metabolism, especially when given as weight loss advice. Besides the obvious fact that the last thing a person who is trying to lose weight needs is being told to eat one more meal per day than they already do, skipping breakfast and eating only lunch and dinner, say at noon and 8 p.m., simply results in a 16 to 8 intermittent fasting schedule, which is equally as effective for weight loss as dividing the same total calories into 3 meals. Also, metabolism kickstarts are just not a thing. Eating breakfast will not make your body require more energy per hour for the rest of the day, which would have to happen for that additional caloric intake to result in a net calorie expenditure. Story 6. Any cool trick to outsmart the legal system is crap. If you know someone whose one cool trick worked, it's because they just accidentally walked backwards into following the actual rules. There is no magic system overturning trick that renders lawyers and judges helpless to move against you. Please understand that the legal system was created by centuries of the most pedantic, stubborn people in society arguing and trying to get one over on their opponents over the last several hundred years. If there ever was a loophole, it would be closed by now. If you think there's a new loophole because your situation is different and it's the modern era, I promise you that the hundreds of lawyers arguing cases just like yours every day in your exact region have thought of that and tried it. If you have a legal matter and you want it to go well, either hire a lawyer or read the pertinent procedural rules yourself and then follow them. Story 7. Not using credit cards at all because credit is evil. The amount of people I encounter doing everything with debit cards and thinking they are better off for is incredible. I have so many clients who pay with debit cards or will talk to me about how they are working on paying down their card so they can switch to only using debit. I also just encountered so many people who have this idea that using a credit card is bad and using debit is a smart financial play. So let's put it simply. Paying interest is bad. Using a credit card and paying it off every month is fantastic. Free benefits, more protection, build your credit. Just turn on autopay and spend like it's your debit card. I'm going to go on vacation with all my hotel and flights paid for just from points earned on my card that I pay off every month. If I get scammed, I cancel a charge and no money leaves my account. If someone gets my card info somehow, I don't instantly get my account drained. Seriously, get a nice points card. I know there are people out there who don't have the self-control for it and are making an informed decision, but it blows my mind how many people just don't use credit as a rule with no understanding of why. Story 8. If you're stressed out, start writing a journal each day. I went through a period during COVID where I was extremely stressed and anxious all the time, as I'm sure a lot of people were, and a friend went to me and said, "Why don't you try journaling to get your thoughts out?" I tried it for about 3 weeks, but I couldn't stay on top of it and then kept thinking, I forgot to do Friday's page, or Wednesdays wasn't talking about my feelings enough for it to be useful. In short, it stressed me out more than it did without. It may be just personal preference, but it was horrendous advice for someone like me. Story 9. Booking and signing contracts with vendors for your wedding but not telling them it's for a wedding so it's cheaper. I've gotten this advice at least 100 times since starting to plan my wedding. Most vendors have in the contract that if they show up the day of and the family event or whatever you called it is a wedding, you are in violation of your contract and often have to pay the difference or don't get the service at all. The fact that the services are more expensive sucks, but I'm not putting myself in a situation like that to maybe save a few $100. Story 10. The be your own veterinarian crowd. Some stuff is downright dangerous, and then I have to pick up the pieces, and chances are that one minor and cheaply fixed problem has now become an expensive nightmare. Garlic doesn't repel fleas, Pedialyte won't cure parvo, aspirin is not safe for all pets and can be dangerous in older pets, Benadryl straight up doesn't work for allergies, CBD is definitely not a cure at all, and cannot be mixed with certain medications, like anti-seizure med phenobarbital, coconut oil doesn't do crap, I could write a book, seriously, like guys, just take your pet to the frickin' vet. Story 11. Lying to vendors and saying that your wedding is a different kind of event to avoid wedding prices. This is how you end up getting vendors who sue you for breach of contract or walk out on your wedding day, leaving you with nothing. You might be able to get away with it for vendors who are not going to be present on site. If you're just picking something up, that's fine. But anybody who's going to be with you on your wedding day is going to know that it's a freaking wedding. Moreover, weddings are once-in-a-lifetime events, and I'm not defending all wedding pricing, but vendors tend to spend a lot more time and energy to ensure that they have multiple backups, both in terms of equipment and staff, in case there's an emergency, and that everything is absolutely perfect because they know you only get one shot at it. Story 12. Lie to your insurance company to get cheaper rates. Using the wrong address, putting it under someone else's name, not listing drivers who live in your house or regularly drive your car, etc. Or the dumbest is probably lying about what happened during an accident. Your adjuster wasn't born yesterday. They're going to find out that you were driving for Uber or that the bumper that you're trying to fix was already messed up 3 months ago. It's all fraud. Nobody likes what happens after they get caught committing fraud. Story 13. Work hard to get ahead isn't really a hack so much as terrible advice. You should just work to keep your job so you can fund your hobbies and time away from work. Your employer doesn't care about you and will kick you to the curb as soon as they need to use layoffs to artificially pump the stock price for earnings season, so do the bare minimum at work and enjoy living your life when you're not at work. Life is too short, so don't give more than 40 hours a week to your employer. Also, job hop, job hop, job hop. That is the only way to get more pay. Once you hit 3 or 4 years at a place, go to a competitor and get more money if you didn't sign a non-compete. Story 14. Lying to your wedding vendors about what kind of event you're booking them for. Things you're picking up are usually fine, like if you're having someone pick up the cake or catering order for a really chill outdoor wedding, fine. But if the vendor is coming to the venue, like the DJ or photographer, or you lie to the venue itself, be prepared for backlash when the day comes and they realize you lied. They could decide not to perform the service. Hair and makeup is also risky even if you're getting ready off-site. I know it sucks that they charge more for weddings, but that's because they know a person's wedding is important and they want to give their best service. Story 15. Never talk to the police. Like, yeah, if you're doing something illegal, don't want them to discover it or dig yourself a bigger hole, sure. Or if you're already in handcuffs or being charged with a crime, definitely shut up and get a lawyer. But if you get pulled over and you're confident the only thing you did wrong was a minor traffic violation, being friendly and compliant will give you a much better chance of not getting a ticket than immediately climbing up. Cops have egos and have your fate in their hands. If you hand over your ID and refuse to say anything else or invoke your Fifth Amendment rights, when they ask their basic phishing questions, they're going to get annoyed, get suspicious, think you're a schmuck, and almost certainly give you a citation for whatever they stopped you for, and potentially other things they observe. Story 16. Anything regarding eating habits, and no, I'm not talking about the genuine advice that's safe. Even that can mess up your relationship with food. I'm talking about the TikTok influencers that were skinny to begin with, but started posting their what I ate in a day when the early 2000s body became desirable again. They show cucumbers on rice crackers and meals that are not efficient for the human body. Maybe I'm wrong and have my own issues to work on. I do, but this content is being shown to such a wide audience and it's not healthy. They give you tips and tricks to feel fuller throughout the day and how they fast, etc. When you watch their content, it's so clear that they're constantly body checking, etc. I know they ask for life hacks, but they offer so many hacks to stay skinny that I had to go on a rant. Sorry. Story 17. Automotive hacks that are baloney. Why they're baloney from a 10-year mechanic in the Rust Belt. Hack. You can use transmission fluid to clean your cloudy headlights back to new with just a rag and fluid. Reality. The detergents inside the transmission fluid are very strong, and the film it leaves behind has a lensing effect which will immediately go away upon regular driving. Temporary at best, environmentally unfriendly, and cost ineffective. Solution: just like any paint correction, rust removal, or wood scratch repair, you need to cut down a few layers of headlight housing to ensure all the scratches and grooves have been leveled out. Then you just polish the surface for a clean, transparent surface. Hack: you can take a lighter to your windshield wiper blades to renew them instead of buying new ones. Reality: you are just doing a controlled melt on the existing rubber and silicone. In some instances, this will restore some of the effectiveness of the wiper blades. The fix is very temporary, as modern wipers have microcuts and sips that help evacuate water more efficiently than a straight flat surface wiper does. Solution: check the wipers on your vehicle. There is a good chance that the wiper and the silicone blade insert are separate parts that can be purchased either as one combined unit or as separate refills. You don't actually need to remove the entire wiper to replace the blade portion. Fun fact: doesn't apply to traditional/old style wipers. Hack: you should idle your car in the morning to warm it up before driving. That way you don't have to sit in a cold car waiting for it to warm up. Reality: you should let your vehicle idle for 15 to 30 seconds after startup and then proceed to driving. Excessive idling is actually worse for your engine in the long run because oil pressure is generated in a linear relationship to RPM, meaning as RPM goes up, oil pressure goes up too. When you're idling, it is at its lowest, meaning that it is providing the least amount of lubrication for the bearings and journals than any other time. Solution: idle for 15 to 30 seconds after startup, then maintain less than 3000 RPM while driving until the blue thermostat, sometimes looks like a blue key in water, light turns off. Once off, you are safe to resume normal driving. Also, the car will heat up faster this way and be exposed to less risk of thermal expansion related wear and tear due to less overall time spent exposed to dynamic temperatures. Story 18. I would say on a wound or sting marks. This is only in movies, and you'd hope someone takes substances so you don't feel much when makes more venom be released. That's if you don't get some kind of infection, because is not sterile, even children's is, whatever some say. Other examples include ironing clothes with hair straighteners, a spoon on a pot to fight foaming, beating on a motor starter, jump-starting a car with both ends hooked to a positive-negative instead of a car body metal point, storing batteries in the fridge, ignoring the pain has no gain. Trust me, olive and motor oil as sunscreen and other misunderstood DIY skincare or remedies from household stuff, and using nail polish as a fix for keys, locks, or chips, which reminds me to tell you not to shoot locks or lockets because it doesn't work and will make some weird mess, ricochet, or render the lock unlockable. Story 19. I recently saw a life tip on Reddit where somebody suggested that instead of apologizing, you should say thank you. So instead of sorry, I'm late, say thanks for waiting. I live in LA where punctuality is almost looked down upon. I much prefer sorry. Acknowledge it was not cool to make somebody wait for you for 15, 30, or even 60 minutes. I was trying to think of a situation where a thank you for would actually be the better way to go when sorry was even considered, because, maybe you did somebody dirty to some extent. Thank you for not being mad I crashed your car. Thank you for understanding I can't pay rent on time. Maybe say sorry first, then thank them if they show a willingness to forgive. Story 20. Constantly job hopping. Not necessarily terrible advice, but it takes some careful consideration and being very aware of nuance. I have many friends who hopped at the first opportunity every time, and they've slowly been given fewer and fewer opportunities as time goes on. One of them mentioned that their frequent job hops was the first thing an interviewer asked them about after they got laid off, and was probably a factor in why they didn't land that job either. It can be an easy way to lock in promotions and salary gains, but it's also very easy to come across as unreliable. You have to find a balance. Story 21. Moving in silence isn't entirely terrible advice, but if you aren't mindful of those who require impressing and demonstration, your work is likely to be overlooked, undervalued, and taken for granted. Trying too hard to follow that axiom ruined my last relationship, and while we're relatively friendly now, she literally can't see what I was doing until she had left and was on her own. Bills, investments, cooking, miscellaneous life maintenance, headaches she never had to deal with. Story 22. I don't even know where to begin with this thread. I've heard way too much of this esoteric guruism over my life, and I'm pretty sick of it, actually. I'm really tired of the people around me giving me advice while refusing to do things for me and invite me to places. When I want to be initiated to parties, all I get is, if you follow my advice, you will get invited to parties, but stay far away from my parties. This idea of monk mode is terrible advice. These internet gurus have this idea that men are supposed to pretend to be monks by spending their time indoors on the computer, lifting weights, studying philosophy, and refusing to spend time with others. And then, after they are done pretending to be an internet monk, poof, all of a sudden a bunch of attractive women will swipe right on them on Tinder. Story 23. Most life hacks are just cons people use to exploit others for financial gain. The real life hack is routine, work ethic, self-reflection, and doing the non-sexy things in life that benefit you. Meal prepping, working out, finding healthy hobbies, doing creative things, being compassionate to people, learning strong, mindful boundaries, etc. I turned my life around when I stopped making time for my escapist behavior, got sober, reevaluated my behaviors, was more mindful who I made space for in my life. Life can get better, just gotta put the work in. Story 24. That changing your routine so you wake up extra early every day and go to the gym minimum 4 times a week is going to give you the time and energy you need to succeed. It is okay to not be super efficient and highly productive with your time and energy on the daily. That type of 5 a.m. club plus gym works for some people. I thought there was something wrong with me because I could not keep up with the suggestions from doctors and therapists about how to improve my life. I failed over and over again, trying all different ways to just manage basic adult routines without cycles of crashing out and mood changes. Fast forward through that 15 years of chaos, and it turns out I am autistic and my immune system is extra sensitive, so I actually need less to do and more time to rest. I already struggle with the simplest daily task, but everyone just saw someone who could be capable of doing better if they just tried X, Y, and Z. Story 25. Any job search advice, like especially tailoring your resume to a specific opening, or trying to use personal relationships to circumvent the hiring process from the pre-LinkedIn era when talking about jobs primarily found at large corporations, like large-scale remote IT, is likely outdated. The time spent crafting boutique applications for specific jobs is better spent sending a generic resume to every suitable opportunity. Your odds of getting any one job are low because of the wide visibility LinkedIn provides and because remote jobs aren't geographically limited. But if you apply to as many as you can find that pay an appropriate salary, your odds of getting something go up. Story 26. Paying off your house early when you have under a 10% interest rate. It may give you peace of mind, but you lose potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential earnings from investing. If my mortgage is $2,500, but my investments return $4,500 per month and compound, why on earth would I pay off a mortgage? The math doesn't check out. Having some debt is fine, it's not always a bad thing. Story 27. I don't know if these would count as widely accepted life hacks, but trying to reset your body clock by staying up for a whole day. That sleep deprivation is going to cook you. The better way to do it is to sleep whenever and force yourself to wake up 16 hours before your desired bedtime. Getting some sunlight immediately to fix your circadian rhythm and do some exercise to burn energy in time for bed. Giving yourself extra energy every day using caffeine, all you're doing is robbing yourself of energy later in the day and upping your caffeine dependency. Alright, so if you're enjoying the video and learning a thing or two from these stories, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 28. When people post about making their own clothes, washing detergent, just buy these 4 products, a bucket and a mixer for a drill, etc. Grate these soap bars, mix with these powders, cook in a pot with water, then add to the bucket with more water, then mix with more water to 5 gallons, and then end up with 5 gallons of terrible quote-unquote detergent that will gunk up your clothes, break your washer, and probably give you rashes since your clothes are full of that stuff. Just buy a good detergent on sale for about $8 and use 1 to 2 tablespoons per load and you'll get clean clothes and a long-lasting washer. The largest jug of detergent will get you like 200 loads when you use the correct amounts, not what they recommend on the bottle. Story 29. The whole Rave Damsey thing of getting a $1 beater car and delivering pizzas as your second job. Firstly, that car is a piece of crap and a liability. It will have terrible emissions, bits falling off, high insurance, poor fuel economy, probably get stolen because it's easy to do so, etc. It will leave you stranded with huge bills and you'll get fired from the pizza place. Secondly, that extra work is going to create a tax issue alongside likely causing you to burn out and develop some kind of health issue. And in the US, that can be hugely expensive. Don't get a second job, try to get a better paid first job. Story 30. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but in academia, you shouldn't always be looking for programming or apps to handle everything. Whenever I need to randomize orders, a task that happens more often than you'd think, for example, I shake a box of papers with numbers on them and pull out the first number, the second number, and so on. I keep a stack of numbered bits of cardboard for just that purpose. Paper calendars are a lot faster in most cases than scheduling software. I love using computers, but they're damned inefficient for a lot of things. In the real world, cash is a lot faster than electronic payment in most cases where I live, and it doesn't need batteries and cannot be traced. I'm not targeted with ads if I spend 100 yen on a drink. Story 31. Decanting is usually terrible. Looks pretty on social media, but most people I know who put everything into a new container right after the store usually seem a lot more stressed about shopping. Often overeat or undereat because they don't read the serving sizes as they threw the nutrition facts out. They also have a harder time cooking for people with allergies because if you ask them if something has peanuts or milk or may have had contact with them at the facility, they will be like, I don't know. Story 32. Using different credit cards for points for most people. Most are only very lucrative for things like restaurants or travel, and if you're spending a massive amount on those things, you likely don't need the cash back. Redeeming points rather than cash back gets super complicated. There's just no way that keeping track of what to buy with each of your 7 credit cards is worth a percentage increase in yield. Furthermore, the promise of rewards generates a subconscious desire to spend more. Buying something you don't need for the few percentage points back is not frugal. Story 33. I don't know if it's the most overrated, but for me it was shaving cream. I was using an expensive shaving cream, but when I retired I began to look for things to save money on. I thought that shaving cream was probably cheap to make, so I looked at a couple of videos and websites. It might be cheaper, but who has mango butter, coconut oil, Castile soap, and jojoba oil laying around? Then once you cook it, whip it with a blender and put it in a jar. You have to be careful to not get water in it or scoop it out of the jar with your fingers. Otherwise, you might get harmful bacteria growing in it. So I just switched to Barbasol. Works fine. Story 34. Pretending like your time is worthless, whatever it is. If you take extra time to do a task to save a few bucks, do the math. Odds are you would use less time at work making up those few bucks. Time is literally the most valuable thing any of us ever have, and no amount of money will ever buy you another second. And you can't take money with you. So yeah, I'm a hire maid, buy the store brand detergent, ignore coupons, have my groceries delivered. It's $10 and saves me like an hour. Come on, people. I'm not going to fold my clothes except the nice ones that go on hangers anyways, and I'm not doing some asinine DIY crap. Think of your time as just another currency. You trade it for money at your job. It's up to you if you think your time is worth it. If you are doing an activity, imagine how much you make per hour at work. Is this activity netting you more or less than that? Are you enjoying it enough that it's worth an hour or whatever of work? Food for thought. Story 35. I looked into making my own butter as it was being made out to be a cheaper alternative. Cheaper, it is not. Selling clothes secondhand. People don't factor in the time spent photographing, editing, ironing, dealing with prospective buyers and idiots, packing, posting, protecting yourself from scams, dealing with false returns if you get unlucky. I have largely given up on selling unless I know the item is going to fetch me more than 50 pounds. The last time I did it seriously, I was living in poverty and needed to find money to eat. Now I can afford not to. I just donate. The time saved means more to me. Story 36. Here's the best way to fold a fitted sheet. Why? I use one fitted sheet. Every week I take the sheet off to wash it, and during that time I simply deal with my bed being unmade for a couple of hours. I haven't folded a fitted sheet in like 10 years. Multiple beds, one fitted sheet per bed. You do not need 15 fitted sheets taking up space in your house. Exception, children. Kids wet the bed, and in that case, fine. Ball up an extra twin-size fitted sheet in the linen closet, but you still don't need 15 of them. Story 37. Making your own stuff, unless it's a hobby, you're wasting so much time making it that the cost is way higher versus simply buying it. There is a reason economies of scale are impossible to compete with. Unless you've got it as a hobby and just are interested in the thing for the sake of it and enjoy doing it, you tend to just be taking the most important thing you have, time, and using it to save you barely any money. Time is always more valuable than money. Money can save you time, but if you are dedicating your time to saving money, you've got the formula backwards and you're just going to have less time to enjoy your life overall. Sadly, I also include cooking at home for yourself here. People say it's a great thing, but if I can basically get someone in 15 minutes that would have taken more than an hour or more, that's a lot of net effective added time in my life that I can use to grow in other ways. I love cooking for potluck because of the happiness multiplier of making something delicious for more than yourself, but just for me, nah. And you end up enjoying food less because you tend to make more than you need and keep eating the same thing over and over at a time. The cost to maintain a stock kitchen, the rising cost of grocery prices versus buying a prepared meal just keeps getting smaller. Restaurants perfectly set themselves up to produce food for cheaper than you can alone. It takes them less time and less resources to produce the same meal. Imagine all the time saved that you could have gone to learning to paint or bring joy to your life. If you can get joy from these acts, sure, but I don't personally get joy from cooking for myself unless I'm making something niche I can't get locally. Story 38. To me, managing credit card points, perks, and benefits seems like a lot of bookkeeping and effort. I think this is a personal thing. I surely have things that I spend lots of time on for less return, DIY projects, etc. I use only 2 credit cards and use the cash back feature. That's about all I want to juggle. The risk of missing a payment and getting a large interest charge is too high for me personally, and the hoops you have to jump through to get miles and free stays and so forth is not fun for me. To each his own, there are people who rock at juggling cards and perks, just not my own strength. Story 39. Not so much a life hack as a really shabby home remedy, but about 15 years ago, I had gallstones really bad. I found some home remedy that said drinking a whole cup of olive oil straight up would grease them up enough to make them pass right through with a little poop. I tried it, wishing for anything to ease the pain. 30 seconds later, I retched to the point of dry heaving. Now, I had gallstone pain and sore ribs, abs, and lower back, and my mouth tasted like I just retched a bucket of whiz. I just went and laid down and cried. Story 40. Heard via radio show that you can use bleach when you hand wash dishes to make them cleaner. Read the back of my dish soap, didn't see any warnings, so I dumped a cup full of bleach in my soapy dishwater. The smell was awful and I started getting lightheaded. Unplugged the sink, vented the apartment, and went outside for a while. Found out later that I had made chlorine gas. Looked up what went wrong. Turns out there's a big difference between adding bleach to dishwater and rinsing dishes with bleach water. Story 41. I followed the advice of a Russian life hacker YouTube video to make an air conditioner with dry ice and fans. I didn't realize that this creates carbon dioxide, which is highly poisonous. It was so hot out, I wanted the air conditioner to keep my dog cool while I was out of the house. I never got another dog after him. He passed away because I was a gullible idiot. And if he hadn't passed away, then I probably would have by using it. The only comfort is that it was painless. You really can't trust stuff you just find on the internet. Story 42. I saw a life hack for easy grilled cheese and decided to try it, then put a fried egg on top for breakfast. The hack consisted of putting a toaster on its side, then putting an English muffin with a slice of cheese into it and cooking it as normal in the toaster, with the exception of the toaster being on its side, of course. Well, it was 5 a.m. and I was getting ready for school. Suddenly, I smell burning as I'm cooking my egg. I turn around and the toaster is engulfed in flames that are spreading to the kitchen counter. Not wanting to pour water on it for fear of starting an even worse electrical fire, I ran screaming into my parents' room and woke my dad up, yelling, "The toaster is on fire, help!" Dad was not pleased, and I had to go through the embarrassing reason as to why I had put the toaster on its side. Story 43. I had a sore throat and was coughing up tons of phlegm. I was told, by the internet, that gargling and swallowing some habanero juice could get rid of sore throats. I was 22 and had nothing to lose. So I went to the store, pressed the juice out of some habaneros once I got home with them, and gargled with it. I swallowed a tiny bit of some of the juice and waited. It really did loosen up all of the phlegm. I started coughing it back up really well and started blowing my nose. Ow! The habanero spice attached itself to most of the phlegm and was now burning my nostrils and everything involved with it. It didn't even work because most of the phlegm returned and my throat was now in spicy pain. Story 44. Not a hack, but definitely along the lines of many of these stories. A couple of years ago, I decided to go greener and dry our clothes outside. I calculated I was saving about $1 for each load. So excited. I had saved at least $20 up until I was loading up the clothesline one time and stepped on a nail that had been left behind when we got new siding on our house. I toughed it out that night, but when I woke up with my foot swollen, red, and throbbing, I went to urgent care. I saved $20 in utility bills, but spent 2 hours in an exam room and over $100 getting my foot back to normal. Yay. Story 45. My brother, whom I love very dearly, blows onto the butt end of his cigarettes and has for years. Why, you ask? Because he was once told that the filter is made of some form of fiberglass, and when they cut it, there are sharp ends left in it, and when you first inhale, they can cause damage to your lungs, so he blows on the ends of his cigarettes before he smokes them, to protect his lungs. Story 46. A few years back, my girlfriend and I spent a week at my mom's house. We were completely out of clean clothes since we got snowed in and had to stay longer than anticipated. Well, the day of our departure coincided with my mom's decision to replace her normal laundry detergent with some homemade all-natural detergent she had seen on Instagram. Long story short, all our clothes were ruined. There were enormous greasy spots and everything, and they smelled terrible. We had to go make the 8-hour drive home wearing borrowed clothes from my parents. My dad's 48/30 pants, I wear 36/34, and my petite girlfriend had to wear one of my mom's rather large house dresses. We looked like circus clowns. Story 47. I walked outside and saw my neighbors spraying insect repellent on their headlights. I asked what they were doing, and they said they saw a life hack video where insect repellent instantly makes your foggy headlights clear again. And it does. It works because the DEET chemically melts off the oxidized layer of the plastic and all the rest of it too. Your headlights will be clear for like 2 days, and then irreparably worse than ever after that. The correct way to fix foggy headlight lenses is by sanding off the oxidized layer and then buffing it clear again. They sell kits for it at any auto parts store. Story 48. People who push both the up and down arrows to get onto the elevator. I used to live on the 11th floor of an apartment building. I was on my way up when a woman on the 10th floor carrying a laundry basket got on. Huh? Odd. I guess she is going to visit a neighbor. When I get to my floor and she didn't follow me, I realized that she probably headed to the laundry room. I guess she pressed the up arrow and the down arrow because she felt like it would get her there faster. No, that's stupid. It gets you onto the elevator faster, but it just slows down everyone's trip, yours included. The world is turning into a cesspool of idiots. Story 49. I cannot take first-year culinary students who take salting pasta water very seriously, and they very seriously ask you if you know why we do it. They are referencing the old wives' tale that it increases the temperature at which water boils, making your pasta boil faster, which is hilarious. It makes the water burn hotter, like standing on a piece of paper makes you taller. It truly does nothing but season the pasta, although I still do it, but don't act like you have just learned the secret to all cooking. Story 50. This is super specific to where I work, but it makes me laugh. One of the positions is time rated. You get paid for X hours of work each day. If you finish it in less time, you go home, but still get paid for the whole thing. One of the women I work with comes in an hour early every single day, flies through her work poorly so she can get home an hour early because then she's making extra money for free. No amount of explaining to her that she's working the same amount of time or that it's not extra money if she just goes home and watches TV all night will convince her. She is 100% confident that she's hacked the system. Story 51. I went with family to a beach that had loungers for hotel guests. We were not guests, but my mom's friend told her to just give a specific room number if asked if she was a guest. The friend had stayed at the same hotel previously. There's a story behind it that I don't remember. I said it was a bad idea, but of course nobody listened to the voice of reason. So we were approached by a worker and asked which room we were staying at. Mom said the number, the worker went away, and everyone went to swim. But either it was procedure or she was a bad actor because the guy was speaking on his phone for a while. Then came back when I was sitting with only my sister and asked questions we couldn't answer. We didn't even try to deny anything because it was a stupid plan from the start and we're too awkward to lie to his face. We had to pack up and leave in embarrassment. Haha. Story 52. When I learned that my ex-boyfriend's dad had passed away in an accident, I was wavering on whether to go to the funeral. It had been a hard breakup for me and we hadn't talked in 2 years, but we had been best friends before we dated. I didn't want to make things weird by showing up out of the blue. My mom said, don't go, no one expects you to, don't miss work. I called into work and went anyway. I'll never forget the way my ex's face lit up and we just hugged so hard. We didn't go back to being besties again or anything after that, and maybe every 5 years or so we might run into each other. That's not important. The important thing is, always go to the funeral when you can. It means a lot to someone at probably one of the worst times in their lives. Story 53. I could probably fill a book with all the bad advice I've been given, just some ones I can recall off the top of my head right now. Don't waste your time trying to stay healthy because you're just going to pass away anyway. Dude, if you don't smoke grass, you're basically just wasting your life. Man, college is for partying, not studying. Yes, they were 100% serious. No woman is ever going to want to sleep with a guy who reads Lord of the Rings. Listen, man, every woman you meet secretly wants to sleep with you. They'll never say it, but they do. That's why you gotta hit on all of them. If the girl you want is with another man, just kick his butt to show her that you're more of a man than him and she'll want to be with you instead. Nobody will ever want to be friends with a guy who doesn't drink. Also, a story. I majored in English in college, which my family was surprisingly supportive of, at least up until about 2 months before I graduated, when my parents called to tell me that majoring in English was a mistake and I needed to see about changing my major to geology and hold off on graduation. If they'd said that to me in my first year of college, I probably would have seriously considered switching, but 2 months before graduation is not the time to bring that up. Story 54. When I was a teenager, I decided to open up to my doctor about how I had been feeling depressed lately. I was hoping maybe he could give me some options to help me during this weird period of my life. He laughed at me and said, "Don't worry, you're not depressed, you're just a teenager." I felt humiliated and upset. This was a medical professional that was supposed to take my concerns seriously and give advice that would help me. I told my mom I wanted to switch doctors after that. It wasn't until after a couple of years of self-destructive behavior that I finally got up the courage to ask for help again and begin a better path. Story 55. To buy a townhouse rather than a detached residential home with a nice yard, which is what I wanted and could afford. The logic was that since I'm single, young, female, it'd be safer and also in a more hip neighborhood. Also, I wouldn't want to mow the lawn and take care of household maintenance. As for mowing the lawn, I could have just paid a kid to do it if I decided I really didn't want to, and I had to take care of plenty of indoor maintenance in the townhome anyway. And I don't care about being hip, all I really want is peace and quiet. As for the safer part, the guy in the home that I shared a wall with mine ended up losing his mind and kicked down my door because I didn't respect him and had aligned myself with the black people in the neighborhood. I barricaded myself in my room. When the cops finally showed up, the first question they asked was whether I had been romantically involved with him. His appearance was as rancid as his personality. Suffice to say, I had not, but it was a sweet job of blaming the victim. He continued to pester me, and since we were living right on top of each other, he knew all my comings and goings. This was back when the housing market was in the gutter, and I eventually decided to let it go into foreclosure. I lost over $100,000, my down payment plus mortgage principal paid to date, by the time it was all over, and my credit still hasn't fully recovered. When I think back on all of this, the part I'm most furious about is that I allowed myself to be steamrolled into making a huge financial and lifestyle decision that, deep down, I always knew was wrong for me. And if any of these stories got to you, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.